No one in the heavenly south had noticed when the sea first began to change. The tide still rose and fell, the skies remained clear, and the cultivators continued their pursuits as if nothing were amiss. Yet beneath the endless sea, something ancient had begun to stir, something that had been sealed away long before the rise of the current. Cultivation era. By the time rumors of a colossal whirlpool reached the sects, it was already too late. Spiritual chi surged, unnaturally devilish auras vanished without a trace, and the balance between heaven and earth quietly began to tilt. And when Han Li turned his gaze toward the northern seas, he did not yet know that this single journey would draw him into a calamity capable of reshaping the fate of the heavenly south itself. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Go, Han Li shouted, pointing straight at eccentric Jin. The blue flame bird immediately spread its wings, transforming into a streak of azure light as it shot forward. At the sight of this, a flash of anger appeared on eccentric Jin's gloomy face. Han Li had not released a single magic treasure, instead sending only one firebird to attack. It was far too blatant a slight. However, the anger on eccentric Jin's face quickly faded, replaced by a cold smile. Without hesitation, he rapidly formed a series of incantation gestures, activating his most formidable sword art with the clear intention of ending the battle in a single strike. The three golden streaks revolving above his head let out draconic roars before vanishing in an instant, replaced by a single golden thread. It was unimaginably thin, yet stretched to a length of 10 meters. Moments later, flashes of golden light erupted one after another before eccentric Jin. More golden threads appeared in rapid succession, and in the blink of an eye, over 100 sword threads densely gathered in front of him, shining brilliantly in a dazzling display. Sword thread transformation. A cold glint flashed through Han Li's eyes as astonishment surfaced on his face. Though he had known eccentric Jin was a sword cultivator, to produce so many sword threads in an instant was something rarely heard of. He truly lived up to his reputation as the Grand Elder of the ancient sword sect. When the surrounding cultivators witnessed this scene, shock was plainly written across their faces. The elders of the 100 Possibilities Pavilion could not help but whisper among themselves. Spring thread execution. As expected of him, the older the wiser. He intends to finish this in one decisive blow. I fear fellow Taoist Han may suffer somewhat from his carelessness. As for the middle-aged cultivator who had arrived alongside eccentric Jin, a trace of joy flickered across his face. Lulo looked slightly shaken, yet senior martial brother Cheng and Lady Brightscent remained completely composed. At that moment, eccentric Jin let out a loud shout and released a stream of spell seals into the sword threads before him. Spiritual light surged wildly as the threads interwove, forming an enormous golden net that surged forward to envelop the blue flame bird. The golden net spanned over 40 meters, while the flame bird itself was scarcely half a foot long. To the spectators, it seemed inevitable that the bird would be obliterated by overwhelming force. Yet what followed left them utterly stunned. The instant the blue flame bird collided with the golden net, a thunderous explosion rang out as light erupted in all directions. From within the flames, a lotus of blue radiance emerged, slowly rotating as its petals unfurled one by one. Countless golden sword threads slashed down toward the lotus, yet every strike was repelled. They merely caused ripples to spread across the light surrounding it. Cultivators familiar with the terrifying sharpness of the spring thread execution were left dumbstruck by the sight. Eccentric Jin himself was struck by disbelief and furious alarm, hastily forming hand seals to further command his sword technique. Several sword threads flashed violently, growing even thinner as they shone with blinding brilliance. They launched another assault, slicing through the lotus' outer radiance and advancing directly toward its core. But at that very moment, the lotus petals bloomed fully. A frigid blue mist burst forth, spreading outward as a dazzling radiance that engulfed everything within 60 meters. Eccentric Jin abruptly felt his connection to his flying sword severed. His heart jolted as he turned to look shock etched across his face. Moments later, his expression turned exceedingly grim. The lotus had vanished without a trace, replaced instead by an enormous glacier of blue ice. His 3 flying swords were sealed within it, completely immobilized. Not good, eccentric Jin cursed inwardly and slapped his storage pouch, summoning a white jade pendant into his hand. Yet before he could activate it, a rumble of thunder suddenly exploded behind him. Startled eccentric Jin immediately attempted to dodge sideways, but the protective light around his body shattered effortlessly. In the next instant, a palm wreathed in blue flames pressed against his shoulder, and a numbing cold swept through half his body, robbing it of all sensation. Fellow Taoist Jin Hanli said calmly, "From where I stand, our battle has already come to an end. What do you think?" Though his face darkened at being completely restrained in a single move, eccentric Jin promptly replied as expected, "Fellow Taoist Han's abilities are profound. I concede defeat." "Brother Jin was merely going easy on me," Hanli said with a smile, lightly patting eccentric Jin's shoulder before withdrawing his hand. Warmth immediately returned to eccentric Jin's shoulder sensation, flooding back as if nothing had happened. Alarmed, he hastily turned around only to see Han Li standing calmly 3 meters away. At some unknown moment, a pair of silver wings crackling with arcs of lightning had appeared on his back. Eccentric Jin let out a long sigh. Han Li's ability to wield glacial power with such exquisite subtlety was simply unbelievable. He had heard that Han Li's primary magic treasures were flying swords, and that his main cultivation art was not ice-attributed. To think that a secret technique used so casually could possess such terrifying power was difficult to comprehend. "Youngster Han, you made good use of my advice." Monarch Soul Divergence chuckled within Han Li's mind. "It is truly a pity that your main cultivation art is not ice-attributed, given how well you control the celestial ice flames." "Senior flatters me," Han Li replied calmly. "Although the celestial ice flames are powerful, they are not enough to warrant changing my cultivation art." With that, he withdrew the thunderstorm wings and flew toward the massive glacier in a streak of azure light. With a casual wave of his sleeve, azure mist surged forth, dissolving the blue ice and condensing it back into a radiant blue lotus. The lotus then flew back toward Han Li and vanished as it entered his forehead. As for eccentric Jin's 3 golden swords, they finally regained their freedom and flew back to him, though their aura was noticeably weakened. Despite being sealed only briefly, their spiritual nature had suffered, casting a shadow over eccentric Jin's expression. At that moment, Han Li descended onto the mountain where the other cultivators were gathered. From sealing eccentric Jin's flying swords with the celestial ice flame lotus to restraining him directly using the thunderstorm wings, Han Li's victory had taken place in little more than an instant. This left the spectators who had been hoping for a grand battle deeply disappointed. Yet at the same time, fear took root in their hearts. Han Li's refusal to use any magic treasure only made the disparity in strength all the more evident. When Han Li landed, the surrounding cultivators warmly welcomed him, regardless of their true thoughts. Fellow Taoist Han's abilities truly live up to the rumors. Congratulations to the Drifting Cloud sect for becoming the #1 sect of the Dream Cloud Mountains. Naturally, those speaking were the elders of the 100 Possibilities Pavilion. Though their ranking had fallen to last place, they appeared entirely unconcerned, speaking instead with great enthusiasm. The middle-aged cultivator from the Ancient Sword sect wore an unsightly expression, yet in the face of Han Li's overwhelming strength, he could only force a smile, unable even to offer congratulations. Lady Brightscent, on the other hand, remained calm, save for a fleeting moment of shock. Senior Marshal Brother Chang and Lu Luo were of course overjoyed. This battle had likely secured the Drifting Cloud sect's dominance over the other 2 sects for the next 1,000 years. Soon the nascent soul elders gathered around Han Li, questioning him about the techniques he had just employed. Maintaining his usual composure, Han Li offered only brief explanations regarding the celestial ice flames and the thunderstorm wings. The others, sensing his restraint, did not dare press further. Before long, eccentric Jin also descended from the sky. By then, he had fully regained his composure, smiling and chatting with the others as though the battle had never occurred. His calm demeanor stirred a trace of admiration in Han Li's heart. With the redistribution of Dream Cloud Mountain's resources settled, the gathered eccentrics began exchanging cultivation insights and trading rare materials of no use to them. Though the small-scale trades failed to interest Han Li, the cultivation experiences proved invaluable, revealing several oversights in his own practice. This convinced him that attending such gatherings in the future would be greatly beneficial. As most of the day passed, the meeting finally drew to a close. Han Li then took the initiative to request a tour of the 100 Possibilities Pavilion's Earth Lung Fire reservoirs. Though surprised, eccentric Pyre agreed. Upon witnessing the unfathomably deep vein of Earth Lung Fire, Han Li could not help but sink into deep contemplation. After some time, the visiting cultivators bade their farewells and departed from the 100 Possibilities Pavilion. Han Li and his senior martial brothers flew back toward the drifting cloud mountains. Along the way, Lulu spoke excitedly with senior martial brother Cheng about spirit stone mines and regions rich in rare resources, lands that currently belong to the ancient sword sect and the 100 Possibilities Pavilion, but of which a portion would soon be handed over to the drifting cloud sect. Though senior martial brother Cheng was not as outwardly excited as Luluo, his mood was nonetheless excellent. Han Li merely smiled, uninterested in the topic. However, just as they were about to arrive at the sect, senior martial brother Cheng suddenly turned to him and said, "Junior martial brother Han, this achievement is entirely thanks to you. For generations, it has been the dream of our sect elders to become the #1 sect in the state of Xi. Now that this goal has finally been achieved, I can face the end of my life without regret. As I have mentioned before, I intend to pass away in meditation. As for the position of Grand Elder, how about handing it over to Junior Martial Brother Han?" Grand Elder. Han Li was momentarily stunned when he heard those words. "That's right," Senior Martial Brother Cheng said with a broad smile. "I won't hide this from you, Junior Martial Brother Han. When you were only at the early nascent soul stage, I had originally planned to appoint Junior Martial Brother Lu as Grand Elder, with you supporting him from behind. But now that you have entered the mid-nascent soul stage and demonstrated such overwhelming abilities, bringing immense prestige to the sect, the position of Grand Elder rightfully belongs to you. Junior Martial Brother Lu has no objections. After all, the title should naturally be held by the strongest cultivator in the sect." After a brief silence, Han Li finally replied, "Many thanks for Senior Martial Brother's kind intentions, but I cannot accept the position of Grand Elder." "Junior Martial Brother Han, there's no need to be so modest," Luluo said with a wry chuckle. "In practice, you've already taken on the role in everything but name. You can't possibly expect me, an early nascent soul cultivator, to serve as Grand Elder of the #1 sect in the state of Xi. It isn't a matter of modesty," Han Li said calmly. "I simply have no desire to hold that title. Senior martial brothers know well that I am a cultivator wholly devoted to the path of cultivation. The fewer distractions I have, the better. How could I possibly serve as the head of the sect under such circumstances? In the future, I will spend long periods in secluded cultivation and will not have the time or energy to manage sect affairs. More importantly, I joined the sect only recently. I am unfamiliar not only with the outer disciples, but even with the core formation martial nephews. In this regard, I am severely lacking. I am perfectly content as an ordinary elder, but the position of Grand Elder should belong to Senior Martial Brother Lu." "But Junior Martial Brother Han Senior." Martial Brother Cheng frowned and was about to continue when Han Li suddenly interrupted him. With a stern expression, Han Li spoke gravely. "If you continue to press this matter, you will force me to leave the drifting cloud sect." Senior Martial Brother Cheng exchanged a helpless glance with Lu Luo, both startled by Han Li's unwavering resolve and uncharacteristic bluntness. After a moment, Cheng sighed and said, "Very well. Since Brother Han has spoken so firmly, we shall set this matter aside for now. Han Li's expression eased and he spoke in a calmer tone. Although I will not accept the title of Grand Elder, I will still watch over the sect as an elder. As long as nothing unexpected occurs, I will do my utmost to ensure the sect continues to prosper for the next 1,000 years. Senior Marshal Brother Chung could only give a bitter smile and change the topic, bringing up what Master Sunreach had wished to discuss with Han Li. Han Li did not conceal anything and gave a brief summary of their conversation. At the end, he added, from Master Sunreach's words, "It seems this matter involves the 7 Spirit Islands and the enormous whirlpool. Since they border the state of Xi, have you heard of anything particularly strange?" "Anything strange?" Senior Marshal Brother Chung shook his head. "Not really. Most of the rumors circulating are largely accurate. When the huge whirlpool and the 7 Spirit Islands first appeared, we dispatched a group of disciples to investigate personally given their proximity to the Dream Cloud Mountains. What they found was no different from the rumors." Han Li sighed softly. "If that's the case, then I suppose I won't learn the truth until I go there myself. I hope Master Sunreach's judgment is correct. With the Divine Devilbane Lightning as support, there shouldn't be any real danger." No matter what Luluo added with concern, Junior Marshal Brother Han must be careful. For all 3 of the great Heavenly South cultivators to gather together, the matter can't be ordinary. Of course, Han Li replied with a faint smile. "Still, I doubt they will deliberately put me in serious danger." In truth, Luluo chuckled. Given that Junior Marshal Brother Han entered the mid-nascent soul stage at such a young age and possesses strength comparable to theirs, even the 3 great cultivators wouldn't dare offend you lightly. Han Li merely maintained his faint smile and said nothing further. The 3 of them did not continue the conversation, and before long they returned to the Drifting Cloud sect. His 2 senior martial brothers parted ways with Han Li and immediately headed to the sect's main hall. There, they gathered the key disciples to announce the Drifting Cloud sect's rise to become the #1 sect of the Dream Cloud Mountains, while also discussing future plans and adjustments. As for Han Li, he went directly to the restricted area where Nangong Wan was sealed. After spending several hours there, he left with a weary expression and returned to his cave residence. During his visit, Han Li had expended considerable effort, using a secret technique to examine Nangong Wan's condition under the soul seal curse, resulting in both good and bad news. The good news was that the ancient fire toad's core was indeed effective, gradually weakening the curse's hold on her soul. The bad news, however, was that the effect was far weaker than he had anticipated. Whether the core could fully dissolve the curse remained uncertain, and only continued observation would provide an answer. Fortunately, even if the demon core failed to completely dispel the curse, it would still weaken its effects, buying Han Li precious time to seek another solution. Half a day later, Han Li sealed himself within a secluded chamber. Sitting cross-legged with his eyes tightly shut, he forcefully pushed all thoughts of Nangong Wan to the back of his mind and devoted himself entirely to cultivation. Any lingering distraction could easily result in a cultivation backlash. From the moment he entered the chamber, Han Li remained in deep meditation. Once his mind had fully settled, he slowly opened his eyes and spat out a longan-sized ball composed of intertwined golden threads. It hovered before his chest, spinning silently in mid-air. Fixing his gaze upon it, Han Li flicked his finger, striking the sphere with an azure spell seal. A rumble of thunder echoed through the chamber as the golden sphere suddenly released fine strands of golden lightning. After flashing violently several times, the lightning vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a small orb of blue flames. As soon as the orb appeared, Han Li opened his mouth and expelled a wisp of his own blue flames, wrapping it around the orb. In the blink of an eye, the 2 flames fused seamlessly before shooting back into Han Li's mouth. Without a word, Han Li immediately formed a peculiar incantation gesture and closed his eyes once more. He had begun refining the final strand of celestial ice flames required to control the Heaven Void Cauldron. Once he succeeded, he would be able to roam the cultivation world with few obstacles remaining. About half a month later, Han Li emerged from his meditative state and opened his eyes. With a flick of his finger, a small ball of blue flames crackled into existence. He stared at the flames with tightly pressed lips before flicking his finger again. The flames wavered, then transformed into a slender snake that coiled tightly around his finger. "Go," Han Li murmured. The flame snake sprouted a pair of fiery wings and shot toward the ceiling. It spiraled just beneath the stone surface before darting nimbly throughout the chamber. Han Li silently observed its movements. After the time it took to finish a cup of tea, he pointed at it once more. Bang! The flame snake burst apart, scattering blue embers that rushed toward Han Li in a gust of wind before vanishing into his body. Han Li smiled faintly and muttered, "It seems the celestial ice flames have become far quicker after refinement. At first, refining a single strand took half a year. Now the same amount requires only half a month." Tilting his head in thought, Han Li slapped his storage pouch and summoned a small cauldron in a flash of azure light. Though only a few inches wide, it was exquisitely crafted with intricate patterns. Han Li stared at the heaven-void cauldron pensively before tossing it into the air. It trembled slightly, then hovered steadily in place. Rubbing his hands together, Han Li ignited a fist-sized ball of blue flames above his palm. Placing his other hand over it, he suddenly released twin streams of blue flames, striking the fireball and causing it to rapidly expand. Moments later, the fireball grew to the size of a human head, rhythmically pulsing. Despite the violent roiling of the flames, not a trace of heat escaped. Han Li lifted his head and looked toward the small cauldron. With a mental command, the sphere of flames shot forward. An astonishing scene followed. The heaven-void cauldron did not shatter upon impact. Instead, it fused directly with the ice flames. Enveloped within the raging blue fire, the cauldron began to slowly rotate. Han Li stared coldly at the cauldron, narrowing his eyes. Soon after, he released his spiritual sense and immersed it within the heaven-void cauldron, carefully examining whether any internal changes occurred under the influence of the refined flames. As time passed, Han Li's frown deepened. Even when enveloped by the celestial ice flames, the cauldron showed not the slightest reaction. Lowering his head in thought, Han Li suddenly raised it again to stare at the heaven-void cauldron. His eyes shimmered with blue light as he channeled the entirety of his spiritual sense into them. Not long after Han Li activated the bright sight spirit eyes, his expression subtly shifted, as though he had discovered something unusual. He raised a finger toward the heaven-void cauldron and released several thin strands of azure spiritual chi, which vanished without a trace the moment they touched it. In a flash of blue light, the celestial ice flames surged violently around the cauldron. Its body rapidly expanded from only a few inches wide to nearly 3 meters in diameter. Clear and vivid carvings of mountains, rivers, beasts, and scenes of tranquil nature gradually emerged upon its surface, lifelike and profound. Witnessing this sudden transformation, Han Li remained calm. He rose to his feet and beckoned lightly, causing the cauldron to drift forward until it hovered a meter before him. After examining it for a moment longer, Han Li reached out, passing his hand directly through the icy flames and pressing it against the cauldron's surface. Instantly, the ice flames roared upward, spiraling into a violent tornado around the cauldron. Amidst resounding dragon cries, a 3-meter-long flood dragon, formed entirely of blue flames, burst forth from the vortex. It shook its body as if reveling in its existence before abruptly plunging back into the cauldron. At that instant, the cauldron's faint copper exterior turned a deep azure blue. The carved beasts upon its surface glowed brightly, seeming to come alive as they roamed across the cauldron in an astonishing spectacle. Han Li remained unfazed. He swiftly pierced the cauldron with several azure threads from his palm, pouring in an unending stream of spiritual power. As the cauldron absorbed this immense energy, a low, resonant hum echoed through the chamber. As Han Li stared intently, ancient blue characters began to appear upon the cauldron's surface. They floated outward before gathering 3 meters above it, forming a strange and mysterious spell scripture. Han Li lifted his gaze toward it and unconsciously slowed the flow of spiritual qi. Immediately the characters dimmed and vanished. Startled, he hastily restored the flow of spiritual qi, causing the scripture to reappear in a faint blue glow. The scripture was not long, comprising roughly 1,000 characters. As Han Li read through it, a look of joy initially surfaced on his face, only for his smile to slowly turn bitter. The meaning of the scripture was clear. It detailed the method to control the heaven-void cauldron. According to the scripture, there were 2 prerequisites to wielding the cauldron. The first was the refinement of the celestial ice flames. The second was an ancient technique known as the artifact imprint technique. This technique existed solely for the purpose of controlling divine spirit treasures and artifacts of comparable rank. Every divine spirit treasure passed down from antiquity possessed its own unique artifact imprint technique. These techniques were entirely incompatible with one another, as each treasure had distinct characteristics and powers. This distinction marked the true divide between ordinary ancient treasures and divine spirit treasures. Only ancient treasures that possessed an artifact imprint technique could be classified as divine spirit treasures. Furthermore, only after cultivating the corresponding technique could such treasures be sealed within one's body and gradually tempered. Naturally, divine spirit treasures could not be fused with one's spiritual sense like ordinary magic treasures. In this regard, they were closer to devilish artifacts. To influence the treasure's spiritual nature, one had to rely on the artifact imprint technique while housing it within the body. Over time, the treasure's spiritual nature would slowly adapt to its owner, eventually reaching a stage where the cultivator and treasure could act in perfect unity. However, due to the overwhelming might of divine spirit treasures, they placed immense strain on the user's spiritual sense. As a result, the cultivator often played a supporting role while wielding them. Such treasures could not be used casually like bonded magic treasures, instead requiring precise timing to unleash their power, yet when used properly, they allowed their wielder to effortlessly overwhelm opponents. In short, the price for a divine spirit treasure's terrifying power was its inability to be used immediately. One had to first cultivate its artifact imprint technique to mold its spiritual nature, and even then, using it in battle was no simple task. The scripture above the heaven-void cauldron explained all of this in straightforward terms, filling Han Li with no small amount of delight. Yet after reading the final incantation, his expression darkened. Although the incantation itself was simple, it was divided into 3 layers. Cultivating the first layer required one to be at the mid-nascent soul stage. The second and third layers, however, demanded late nascent soul stage and deity transformation stage cultivation respectively. In other words, even after cultivating the first layer, Han Li would only be able to wield a small fraction of the heaven-void cauldron's power. Deeply disappointed, he withdrew his hand and ceased channeling spiritual power, causing the floating scripture to fade away at once. Han Li stared gloomily at the massive cauldron before him. Though he had no clear idea how powerful that small fraction might be, he held little hope. Could it truly compare to the aureate sword formation or the purple apex flames? After a moment of silence, Han Li let out a quiet sigh and decided to refine the first layer of the artifact imprint technique regardless. At the very least, this would allow him to store the heaven-void cauldron within his body and nurture it over time. With a sweep of his sleeve, he enveloped the cauldron in a jet of azure light, shrinking it back to its original size in an instant. Grasping it in his hand, he stowed it into his storage pouch. Han Li then sat down cross-legged and slowly closed his eyes. The first layer of the artifact imprint technique surfaced within his mind, and he began to silently comprehend it. The technique itself was not particularly complex, requiring only about a month for Han Li to fully understand. However, the scripture made no mention of how long the heaven-void cauldron would need to be tempered. Fortunately, the artifact imprint technique functioned autonomously, so long as the divine spirit treasure was housed within the body. One's spiritual sense would gradually influence and reshape its spiritual nature. 2 months later, Han Li emerged from seclusion. Comprehending the artifact imprint technique had taken far less time than expected, allowing him to successfully seal the heaven-void cauldron within his body. As for the remaining time, he had used the materials provided by senior martial brother Cheng along with the puppet remnants from Heaven Void, Hall to refine a nascent soul-grade puppet. This was not due to a lack of materials, but rather the extremely high failure rate involved in refining nascent soul stage puppets. He had possessed enough materials to attempt 4 refinements, yet only succeeded once, leaving Han Li deeply regretful. Needless to say, constructing Monarch Soul Divergence's puppet body would require even rarer and higher-grade materials. The success rate would be lower still, meaning he might need to gather several times the required materials to ensure success. When Han Li brought this up, Monarch Soul Divergence proudly claimed that the refinement method was his own creation and that there was no need for concern. Failure simply would not happen, and if it did, then the flaw would lie in the refinement method itself. Hearing that he would not need to collect even more materials, Han Li finally breathed a sigh of relief. Upon emerging from seclusion, Han Li first visited Nangong Wan in the restricted area to check on the condition of the curse. Afterward, he returned to his cave residence and spent several days refining medicinal pills that would be immensely beneficial for Mu Pailing's core formation. Finally, he bid farewell to senior martial brother Cheng and Lu Luo before setting off for the 7 Spirit Islands to meet Master Sunreach. Though senior martial brother Cheng and Lu Luo were busy overseeing the sect's newly acquired resources, they personally escorted Han Li out of the Dream Cloud Mountains, drawing a smile from him. After leaving the drifting cloud sect, Han Li headed north in a streak of light. The 7 Spirit Islands lay north of the state of Shi. It was said that after flying for a single day across the endless sea, one would encounter the enormous whirlpool and the 7 Spirit Islands. A week later, Han Li reached the edge of the endless sea. Even before catching sight of the islands, he sensed astonishing changes within the waters. Though the sea remained as murky as ever, it now carried a faint blue tint. With his spiritual sense, Han Li detected small fish and other forms of life beneath the waves. The fearsome sea beasts that once roamed these waters were nowhere to be found. Most striking of all was the dramatic change in the surrounding spiritual qi. After flying for half a day, Han Li finally sensed a massive concentration of spiritual qi in the distance, accompanied by 7 smaller fluctuations nearby the 7 Spirit Islands. Filled with curiosity, Han Li unconsciously increased his speed. When several dark dots finally appeared upon the sea's horizon, he also noticed a small group of cultivators hovering in front of them. The group consisted of 5 Foundation Establishment cultivators, led by a single core formation cultivator, a woman dressed in palace robes. Han Li made no attempt to conceal himself and flew directly toward them. Upon seeing him, the group naturally moved to greet him. When the woman in palace robes caught sight of Han Li, she froze briefly before bowing deeply. "Greetings, Senior. I am a disciple of the Harmonious Bond sect. By order of my superiors, we are blocking off this stretch of sea. May I ask what brings you here?" Instead of answering immediately, Han Li frowned slightly and muttered, "Blocking it off. It seems fellow Taoist Sunreach was right. There truly is a problem here." After another careful look at Han Li's face, the woman hesitated before asking, "Could it be that you are Senior Han of the Drifting Cloud sect?" "That's right. I am Han Li," he replied calmly. "Master Sunreach has invited me here. Must I wait for a report to be made before I may enter?" The moment his name was spoken, the group of cultivators erupted into commotion. By now, Han Li's reputation had reached a level where his name was known throughout the entire cultivation world of the Heavenly South. Alarmed by his presence, the group of cultivators revealed expressions of awe and reverence. Not daring to show the slightest disrespect, the woman in palace robes hurriedly said, "Since it is Senior Han, there is no need to make a report. Senior Sunreach has already given instructions to allow you to pass. This junior will personally guide you to Spirit Turtle Island." Han Li nodded expressionlessly and said nothing more. The woman then turned to the cultivators behind her, instructing them to remain behind before leading Han Li forward. They flew toward a dark shape in the distance, an island spanning roughly 30 kilometers. Knowing this was Han Li's first visit, the woman carefully explained, "Senior Han, this is Spirit Phoenix Island, the base of the Harmonious Bond sect. It neighbors Spirit Turtle Island, which serves as the base of the Great Truth sect." Han Li glanced briefly in the direction she indicated. Though the island was still too distant to see clearly, he sensed a massive source of spiritual qi emanating from another direction, releasing powerful and astonishing fluctuations. There was no doubt that this immense concentration of spiritual qi originated from the rumored giant whirlpool. Lost in thought, Han Li followed behind the woman. About 2 hours later, they arrived at Spirit Turtle Island. This island was slightly larger than Spirit Phoenix Island, and its outline indeed resembled a turtle, just as its name suggested. As they approached the island, the woman sent out a voice transmission talisman. Shortly after, a white streak of light flew out to welcome them. Upon seeing this familiar light, Han Li halted and transmitted his voice from afar. "Is that you, fellow Taoist Sunreach? You honor me by coming to welcome me personally." Master Sunreach burst into laughter upon hearing Han Li's voice and replied, "He he he. Fellow Taoist Han is a man of his word. It would be improper for me not to do so." He flew forward until he was only 100 meters away. The streak of light dissipated, revealing the Taoist priest's figure. Han Li smiled and returned the greeting. Master Sunreach instructed the woman to return, then turned to Han Li with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Han, follow me to my cave residence. I've already informed fellow Taoist Wei. As for Devil Concord, he is currently occupied and unable to come." "That's fine. Let us go," Han Li replied without objection, and the two immediately set off. Along the way, Han Li swept his spiritual sense across the entire island and unconsciously frowned. The island possessed an exceptionally dense spiritual vein that spanned nearly 5 kilometers. Yet there were very few cultivators present, and every one of them possessed a high level of cultivation. Contrary to his expectations, there were no low-grade cultivators at all, an oddity that stirred doubt in his mind. Not long after, Han Li followed Master Sunreach into a newly constructed cave residence, located within an unremarkable stone mountain. The structure was cleanly carved and neat. The two entered a spacious hall and took their seats. Master Sunreach offered Han Li some tea, and they began to converse. The elderly Taoist deliberately avoided mentioning the true reason for summoning Han Li. Instead, he spoke at length about the surrounding seas, the sects occupying the 7 spirit islands, and several unaffiliated cultivators Han Li should be wary of. It was clear that Master Sunreach intended to wait until Wei Wuya arrived before revealing anything of importance. Han Li felt displeased by this, but he concealed it completely and continued chatting politely. After the time it took to finish a meal, Wei Wuya finally arrived. Master Sunreach personally went out to greet him and brought him into the hall. Naturally, Han Li greeted Wei Wuya as well. Upon seeing him up close, Han Li noticed that Wei Wuya's complexion was healthy and his skin flawless. He appeared to have fully recovered from his injuries at Devil Fall Valley and looked vigorous. Han Li found this strange. By his understanding, Wei Wuya should have suffered a severe loss of vitality in Devil Fall Valley. Recovering so quickly meant he must have used several extremely precious medicinal resources. Wei Wuya quickly took his seat and asked Brother Sunreach, "Have you already explained the matter to Han Li?" "Of course not," Master Sunreach replied calmly. "This is something best discussed when both of us are present. Since Brother Wei has arrived, it would be better for you to speak first. I will simply add details as needed." After a moment of consideration, Wei Wuya nodded. "Very well. This matter can no longer be delayed, otherwise catastrophe will surely strike." Catastrophe. Han Li's interest was immediately piqued. This clearly wasn't a trivial matter. Fellow Taoist Han Wei Wuya said solemnly, "To put it simply, this concerns the Elder Devil." Han Li was greatly shocked. Wasn't the Elder Devil forced to flee after suffering grievous injuries? That is correct, Wei Wuya replied. But doesn't fellow Taoist find the timing of the giant whirlpool's appearance suspicious? He continued gravely, the whirlpool emerged in the endless seas shortly after the elder devil fled. Moreover, we discovered concrete evidence near the whirlpool. During the final stages of the pursuit, the elder devil slaughtered several cultivation clans and small sects. Later investigations revealed that these clans and sects were rumored to possess devilish artifacts. As a result, the elder devil acquired 3 such artifacts. Furthermore, near the whirlpool, we discovered the shattered remains of one of those stolen devilish artifacts, as though it had been destroyed by an overwhelming force. From this, we suspect that the elder devil had already arrived at the endless seas before we managed to corner and drive it away. Han Li muttered to himself briefly before probing. So there is something abnormal about this whirlpool. Otherwise, you wouldn't treat this matter so seriously, even if the elder devil was involved. Brother Han speaks the truth, Master Sunreach said with a bitter smile. If the whirlpool merely released spiritual qi, we wouldn't give it much thought. The crucial issue is that this so-called whirlpool is actually the core of a massive spell formation that was sealed long ago. The 7 islands are merely a portion of this grand formation. Fellow Taoist should now understand the severity of the situation. A sealed spell formation. Han Li's expression changed drastically. What exactly is this massive formation sealing? Wei Wuya replied, we have a rough idea, but I won't go into specifics. What matters is that this formation is connected to the Elder Devil realm and the Elder Devils themselves. I'll leave the rest to Brother Sunreach after all. He was the one who dove to the bottom of the whirlpool and saw it firsthand. What is there left for me to say? Master Sunreach responded calmly. Did you not sense it upon your arrival? At the bottom of the whirlpool lies an endless, unfathomable amount of devilish qi. It is currently being suppressed by the immense purity of the whirlpool's spiritual qi, most likely due to the formation itself. Should this balance collapse, a great calamity will befall the heavenly south, warping its entire spiritual environment. Worse still, we suspect that something else lies beneath the sea closely tied to this devilish qi. Wei Wuya spoke helplessly, but now that fellow Taoist Han has arrived, he should have noticed it as well. The core of the grand sealing formation has already been destroyed. The whirlpool is slowly releasing its spiritual qi, and one day it will no longer be able to suppress the devilish qi. When that happens, at least half of the heavenly south continent will be tainted and rendered uninhabitable for human cultivators. Since the drifting cloud sect is so close to the endless seas, it will inevitably be affected. Han Li was momentarily speechless. Raising an eyebrow, he said indifferently, since the 3 great cultivators summoned me here, you must already have a plan to resolve this before it turns into a disaster. If not, then there is little I can do. A massive eruption of devilish qi would deal devastating damage not only to the drifting cloud sect, but to both the devilish and righteous Tao alike. Only the 9 Nations Union might escape the brunt of it due to their distance from the endless seas, yet even they would be affected in the long run. The loss of cultivable qi across half the continent would inevitably spark chaos and war among countless sects. After discovering this looming danger, we immediately began researching the sealing formation, Wei Wuya continued. In doing so, we uncovered something almost unbelievable, something connected to the great Jin Empire. As he spoke, he cast an odd glance toward Master Sunreach. The great Jin Empire, Han Li exclaimed in shock. Does fellow Taoist Han know where we found those records? Master Sunreach asked with a wry smile and a helpless tone. You mean? Realization struck Han Li and his expression changed. It seems fellow Taoist Han has already guessed, Master Sunreach said, smiling bitterly. The information regarding this ancient sealing formation came from secret records hidden within my sect, countless years ago. My sect was originally a branch of one of the 3 great sects of the great Jin Empire, the Grand Truth sect. We were dispatched to the heavenly south for the sole purpose of watching over this ancient sealing formation. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.